Financial institutions have been tokenizing, building custom assets, and even managing government on-chain money funds basically compliantly on the Stellar Orb blockchain for the past 5 years. You also got to keep in mind when it comes to Stellar, remember the whole thing we did in regards to a new white paper, not an XLM white paper, nothing like that. Don't get it twisted, but it was a blueprint for regulators, especially for the U.S. government. And it mentioned and referenced the U.S. government quite a few times. We got deep into that PDF. But yes, I would agree with this statement. Superior technology, speed, cost, partnerships, clients means we are about to see the largest transfer of smart contract and DeFi wealth, boom, to the Stellar network. How cool is that? He's excited to see what it means also for SHX, and we're going to get into that segment here in a bit. But here's the big headline. The headline is actually after this part. But I did see this also from Stellar. They posted this earlier today, 11:05 a.m. Mountain Time. And even if you're not the type of guy who's a nerd to understand all this stuff, understand code, again, I'll make it real quick and easy for you. First smart contract uploaded to Stellar mainnet. That was fast. And of course, you can look more into it right here on the link from horizon.stellar.org/operations216. But man, I mean, you start off here, and remember how they talked about, like, was it like 3 lines of code? I mean, I know, was it Quant originally said that, and I think Stellar says something like doing something similar, or getting to the point where, like even with Quant, right? Mentioned, not even having to do any code anymore. Well, where the case be, to attract devs to your platform, where they don't have to learn new coding languages and jump through a bunch of hoops and go back to school and all that. Boom, there you go. I mean, we all want examples. That's pretty straightforward. And to have this, like it says, first smart contract uploaded, keep in mind, some people said, I haven't seen any insane price action. It just went live. And so it does take some time. And again, now we need people or organizations, projects, you name it. All we need is a few rising stars, but this is a big deal. And apparently when we get more into this, you're going to see it's not 100 projects, right? They're going live. I think it's like 160. Again, guys, like I've always mentioned, all you need is like a 2 or a handful, which is big, right? Absolutely big. Getting to the next part, this is a little bit more of like that big announcement. So Soroban, we know that this is the premier smart contract platform for Stellar. Did announce earlier today they have reached an important milestone, and basically it's that protocol 20. It's supposed to come out last month, got pushed out to now. There's a few bugs. Hey, I've always wanted them to get it right instead of getting it wrong. Like, that's the way to do things, in my opinion. You don't rush things out when they're not ready. But yes, smart contracts now live on mainnet. Finally, very cool. Stellar Network just upgraded to Protocol 20, the most transformative upgrade to the Stellar Network to date, marking the beginning of a new era for the network. Now, I will play this, and you will hear from a familiar gentleman who's obviously focused on Soroban. And, his name is Justin. But listen to this. And we got more video clips and so on to get into, but I thought I would at least play this. So appreciate the coverage. Please smash the like. Let's get the program to a larger base. Here we go.
Today, the Stellar mainnet upgraded to Protocol 20. Woohoo! Protocol 20 introduces Soroban, which is Stellar's cutting-edge smart contracts platform. This creates new surface area for innovation and provides new opportunities for developers to build protocols and products that create access to everyday financial services. So it means a gradual increase in transaction capacity and a chance to fine-tune applications. And it's the most transformative upgrade to the Stellar network to date. Woohoo!
Yes, a big time woohoo, right? Anyway, getting more into this and why it's significant. I'm going to pull up another particular thing. Give me just a moment to get into that. So here's part 2 of this thread. And let's go ahead and pull it up on the screen for you if you can see it. So it talks about this as well, right? And basically it's a nice little outline, lots of details. I mean, you're going to see a lot of people retweeting this, chopping it up, community people and so on, right? But the upgrade itself, if you were wondering, if you're just tuning in, does kick off the start of the phase rollout of Soroban. And that rollout, wow, what a profound rollout that's going to be. The smart contracts platform basically on Stellar. Currently, they're in phase 0. So, it's going to take a little bit of time. But like it says, crucial for network operators to observe post-upgrade conditions after the upgrade and not intended for end users. When you get more into this, I think I was keeping on the other previous one a little bit bigger. But yes, bring smart contracts to Stellar, upgrade vote. That already happened. Validators voted to go live on the Stellar mainnet. So it's the beginning of this phase. So we're in phase 0. We're not into these other phases yet, but it's called stability testing. Ledger capacity for Soroban contracts starts low. This phase is for stability testing only. But here's the juicy part, in my opinion, that I think is going to excite a lot of people, and that is the deployment and monitoring of some of these smart contracts, right? So when we get to that phase 1, like it says, ledger capacity for Soroban transactions increase. Applications can begin deploying testing on mainnet. Then it gets to this phase 2. And if you're wondering when was this posted, it was posted this morning, 10:40 Mountain Time. User ready mainnet. Anyone can deploy and interact with smart contracts. Ledger capacity will continue to increase. Now, if you're a new person to all this, and I've seen some of you guys say that it's okay, we're all human, right? It's not about like who knows more than the next guy. But I consistently see people, for whatever reason, and again, this is no bash on anybody, but they'll say something like, how can I purchase Soroban? It's not a coin. It's not that type of thing. It's a smart contract. So you need to look at Soroban, if you're new to all this, like how you would look at, Ethereum and let's face it, right? Like especially ERC20 smart contracts, right? This is a disruptor of the overall conglomerate. If you understand how big smart contracts can be, then you should understand where like Solana came from, nothing and became a big deal, especially the last, bull market, and even what it's doing right now. I mean, say what you want, I look at like Solana and Ethereum, like they're part of a Formula One race, if you will, right? And you're, which car are you going to bet on? And, the sponsors they have and so on. And, Ethereum has dominated this space that we're in for, many years basically and so on. But its time is coming, in my opinion, to an end because they just haven't got with it as far as speed and so on. Some people will say, well, yeah, they have. I mean, there's roll-ups and so on, right? But it's their tech. I mean, there's a difference between these layer 2s and just original Ethereum, right? Well, again, look at Stellar. Stellar is going to put a big dent into the competition. And I want to get into a little bit more of why I feel that way. So there's part 3 of this thread. And when you get more into it, you will see, like it says, they will embark on this exciting journey, bringing DeFi to Stellar. It's important to manage expectations among all users. Today marks a beginning, not an end. It's pretty profound. Stay connected, check out the community, all this stuff, right? If you click on the banner, it will take you to this. And basically speaking, I just want to kind of jump to these key parts because there's a lot that's basically mentioned here. I don't want to make this segment 2 hours, basically. You know me, I do really get into the deep dives. But I went to this particular section, and it's, again, about this whole phase, the rollout. So this is, phase 0, if you will, kind of like, the prequel to, or, the pre-phase, right? So today's vote marks the beginning of the phase rollout, where validators who vote to configure network settings will increase capacity for smart contract transactions in a series of I can't even pronounce it right now, steps. The phase approach will give those validators, as well as other network participants, time to monitor smart contract functionality's impact on the network, ensure performance, security, stability at every step. I mean, you do like the idea that they're crossing the T's, dotting I's, right? Gradually, like it says, validators plan to increase limits for Soroban transactions, building up to full capacity. As increases happen, we will enter phase one. The 160 plus builders. Think about that for a second. We started off, I think, originally when we were covering this with Soroban, like 40, then went to 100, and then this is the last report, 160 plus. So 160 plus builders and projects already building on testnet and will begin to deploy on mainnet. Later, once projects are deployed, the network has been stress tested and ecosystem is satisfied, dApps will launch for all 2 years. Now, this is crucial for you to understand. You haven't seen, this is not going to go parabolic with this news, but it's a big deal about Protocol 20, is it not? When we talk about utility in motion, this is not quite utility in motion yet. It's kind of like inviting everybody to the party and putting the frame up and so on, but we're not open for business. You know what I mean? It's like like somebody opened up a restaurant, and the owners kind of getting together, and you're putting up a bunch of party decorations and so on. You're preparing for that grand opening, but it's not the grand opening, right? And as we know, if we're going to apply this to blockchain and DLT, the grand opening would be the utility of motion. You want to get some butts in the seats and so on. You want to see some things, some orders taking place, and the transactions. That's utility of motion, right? So basically, like it says, Stellar Development Foundation will communicate throughout the process, but the initial details on the rollout can be found in this video for those who are interested. Well, I thought I would share this with you. Why? Because it's only 2 minutes and 21 seconds, and it's a good video. So let's check this out. You're going to hear from Justin once again, and it's a good outline, and I think it's going to give us a taste of what is coming here very soon. If Stellar's your thing, again, smash the like, helps get the program out to a larger base. Let's go ahead and play this. Here we go, and if it bugs out, I will fix it. Hold on a second.
Hello, everyone. I'm Justin Rice, VP of Ecosystem at the Stellar Development Foundation. Today, the Stellar mainnet upgraded to Protocol 20. Woohoo! It's a big day because it's the beginning of the phased rollout of Soroban, which will finally bring smart contracts to Stellar. The Protocol 20 upgrade is a huge achievement, and it's made possible by the collaborative efforts of the entire ecosystem. So first and foremost, I want to thank everyone for working together to make it happen. Thank you. Protocol 20 introduces Soroban, Stellar's cutting-edge smart contract platform, which creates new surface area for innovation and provides new opportunities for developers to build protocols and products that create access to everyday financial services. So this is not just a technical upgrade, it's actually a significant leap forward for the Stellar ecosystem and the most transformative upgrade to the Stellar network to date. It's the result of over 2 years of hard work, hundreds of thousands of lines of code, and extensive community collaboration. Now that the upgrade is complete, we're working with network validators to initiate a phased rollout for Soroban transactions on mainnet. So to ensure that Soroban is introduced safely and that it doesn't disrupt all the products and services that have been effectively leveraging Stellar for years, the plan is to start by allowing a small number of Soroban transactions in each ledger. So these are in addition to the current ledger limits, and then to work with validators to methodically increase the amount after it's clear that everything is running smoothly. Phase 0, which starts today, it focuses on network stability. This phase is crucial for network operators. It's not yet intended for full use. Phase 1 will allow developers to deploy and test contracts on mainnet. And then in phase 2, Soroban will be ready for production use. For developers, it means a gradual increase in transaction capacity for smart contracts and a chance to fine-tune applications. And for users, it's a promise of a robust platform where they can soon engage with new use cases. We will make sure to communicate as much as we can about the phases moving forward, make sure that you know what's happening and where we are in the rollout. This is a super exciting moment in the Stellar journey. The launch of Protocol 20, Soroban, it's a new chapter for the network. And I just want to thank you, the community, for your continued support. We look forward to seeing what you'll build on Soroban.
All right, very cool to be able to share that. I'm going to scroll down to just a few other key things I noticed before we kick it into the conclusion. So I'm going to pull this back up one more time. And yes, like you see right here, Stellar, a network that is low cost. Think about that for a second. How much of a low cost? Well, basically very, very low. I mean, if you could move 10 million in stable coins and it's only 0.5 zeros and a one, and the competition doesn't even come close to that, that's game changer. Now with smart contracts on Stellar, kind of like what Justin was talking about, a whole new world is opening up for builders where security, affordability, and scalability aren't on the roadmap but built into the code, with resources and tools for the masses and access to an ecosystem that is already delivering real world utility. Imagine being able to, scale up and have, a moment where devs realize for the future that they're going to have a problem and they can go through the code and prepare for, let's face it, some possible outcomes that could be a problem. That's a good thing. This whole thing of, secure, make it easy to build is a good thing. For Soroban itself, like it says, security, ease of building were priority number one. In collaboration, consultation with the ecosystem, intentional design decisions were made so builders wouldn't need to start from scratch or choose performance over security. I like that. Together, a decision was made to use Rust and WASM, tested and well-known tools. I mean, think about that for a second. You know, we've talked about some of these things with other blockchains, right? Think about it. So, yes, to have tested, well-known tools for Soroban's tech stack to build and experience prioritizing safety, speed, and familiarity. I think that's all great. This part about scalability, I think we need to take a moment to look at this. So it says scalability and efficiency are the bread and butter of any platform, and you shouldn't have to compromise basically that when building. Talks about more about the whole thing of transaction costs need to be low. I mean, this is all common stuff, but I like this statement here. This is where smart contracts shine, especially on Stellar. Soroban engineers have conducted research to influence the design of specific features that support network scalability and sustainability. And here's an example for all of you guys. Soroban employs a fees and excuse me, that was my bottle going off, sorry. Employs a fees and metering structure that allows individual resource consumption, such as ledger entry reads and writes, CPU instructions, RAM, which is memory, to be priced independently, and it offers a state-of-the-art method for archiving state that involves the age-old blockchain problem of state bloat. And I've covered state bloat in the past. I know some of the nerd talk, but look what it says. No retroactive fixes or massive upgrades are needed to solve problems that can be solved from the beginning. What do they mean by that, guys? Think about this for a second. What they mean by that is enabling developers to have the tools needed to prepare for the future. What kind of future? Well, maybe future problems. See, if you look more into like Ethereum, for instance, and the smart contracts, this is a lot of the problem. If at your core foundation, you don't really have any true scalability, well, then you're stuck in the mud. This is where a lot of, complaints about how Ethereum is garbage at this point. Maybe it's been always garbage, but whatever you want to call it, it's the McDonald's of smart contracts. Enter in Soroban for Stellar. I kind of look at like the analogy of going, and I used this analogy before, to a Chinese buffet. Yeah, you're going to get a lot of that quantity. Are you going to get a lot of that quality? Not really. You want gourmet, you're not going to really get it there. All right. Look at Soroban in that type of light. So in conclusion, I want to bring something up to you guys in regards to all the coverage and, let's face it, pretty much big news for today. And that is this. What exactly does this do? What exactly is so significant about today? Well, there is significance in regards to this, in regards to my conclusion and research notes. So at the end of the day, what is the bottom line? Well, it's possibilities, it's opportunity. This in itself does, in fact, open up new possibilities, especially for Stellar. Smart contracts, as we know, are essential programmable agreements that can automate various financial services, and there's specific transactions to create more complex applications. And what I mean by that basically is you're going to see a bunch of dApps being built. If there was ever a complaint in the past of Stellar doesn't have enough dApps, the only ones you hear about the connections is like, Wisdom Tree and stuff like that. Well, be ready for a huge influx of dApps. I'm just going to go ahead and call that right now. I'm not the only one that feels that way. So their presence on Stellar in regards to this whole thing of like, Soroban unlocks possibilities for building decentralized finance, DeFi protocols. Again, a little bit more back to the whole thing with the dApps, asset issuance platforms, for instance. If we hear about Larry Fink talking about the tokenization of all this, well, DeFi protocols and asset issuance platforms, that's going to be the pathway towards getting to where we need to be. Escrow services, prediction markets, and much more. In my opinion, this is going to significantly impact the utility of what Stellar provides and basically like the outbounded, the stretch or reach of the network. You're going to be able to do more things than you normally could do before with Stellar. A lot of the criticism and FUD that has been circulating in regards to Stellar, if you really look into it, you just created a mechanism in place to enable your platform to reach unbounded, scale that needs to be answered, right? What about the whole thing of enhanced functionality? Think about this for a second, right? Currently speaking, Stellar primarily facilitates simple payment transactions. Is this why that we see the price around what it is? Well, maybe not, but smart contracts, we do know this much, do add an extra layer, a huge layer. I mean, imagine for a second, hear me out, that Ethereum didn't have smart contract functionality. What would they really have? I mean, if you really think about it, I mean, every time we think of Ethereum, we think of ERC20, ERC20, right? Do we not? So smart contracts do add that layer of sophistication, and it allows for conditional payments. Think about that for a second. Multi-signature accounts, automated token swaps. I like that. When you hear automated token swaps, that is automated utility in motion. There's going to be other advanced functionalities, but it's going to attract not just the devs that came into Soroban right now, but other devs who may be thinking about in the future, but just want to see how the whole thing went with Soroban. And that's a fact, right? Because at the end of the day, there are devs, they're going to, sit on the sidelines and be like, well, I'm with this particular blockchain and I have obligations to my team and so on, but, we're not going to be too loyal to Ethereum anymore. We realize where the future is at. Yeah, the future is with Stellar, and it's through Soroban. What about increased competition? Because let's be honest, right? All these guys compete with each other. Last we checked, basically, and these reports kind of fluctuate, but in the past, it was like 70 to 90% of, smart contracts are dominated by Ethereum, and 5 to 10% was or is, I should say, in regards to Solana, especially when it comes to NFTs and whatnot. So look at those two. You still have to recognize that Ethereum is one of the ones that dominates, right? Bitcoin and Ethereum, 81% of the overall market dominance for the overall crypto market. Solana is a top 10, right? Yeah, their network goes down, but again, guys, the key thing is smart contracts. Don't ever forget why you're here to pay attention to this. So for Stellar to put it in, create this mechanism, I think this is the biggest deal, in my opinion. And this is my opinion. I'm just one guy. I don't know everything, but a lot of people focus on Stellar when it comes to, like the saying goes, the retail money, right? The peer-to-peer money for cross-border payments and all this stuff, right? Not the bank, necessarily the bank-to-bank money, even though they're part of that mix. But when we understand about the big players, I think you have to now seriously realize that Stellar is going to create that pressure cooker effect, of supply and demand. Again, I could be completely wrong on this, but again, We're not to the point of this 160 projects that are live and boom, ready to go. We're in these phases. But think about it. I don't think we're overthinking it. You know, if Luna Classic, and this is no bash on Luna Classic, because I mean, I hold it too. A lot of you guys do as well. But if Luna Classic is like really trying to attract devs to come back, well, what if you just have a blockchain that already has made something into place in which is very attractive to new devs, old devs from other, you know, like Ethereum and so on, to come into the ecosystem? You are creating incentive, you're incentivizing these guys to build on your platform, saying, look, you don't have to learn new code. And if you're limited with your coding abilities, okay, don't sweat it too much, because you can hook up with these devs on this platform. You can build, and it's not that much in regards to coding, like 3 lines of code, if that. You know, you can team up with somebody to focus on what your passion is, and that is to simply build out this ecosystem. You don't think that's like the coolest thing in the world for devs to hear that? Oh yeah, it's definitely the coolest thing. But again, like we said, increase competition. So by adding smart contracts, listen to this for a second. I know this is a lot to get into. Stellar enters a space dominated by platforms like Ethereum and, like I said, Solana. This creates competition and encourages further development and innovation with, of course, the Stellar ecosystem. I mean, will you have, you know, people from Solana jumping ship? I don't know about that. You know, that's kind of a stretch, but I think it's safe to say, I think most of us on the general consensus of things would agree that you definitely would see quite a few wanting to jump ship from Ethereum, right? You're going to go from McDonald's to, like, you know, In-N-Out Burger or something like that. I guess that's a bad comparison, but you know what I mean? You're going to go from fast food to literally gourmet. That's the way I look at it. All right, a little bit more about this phase rollout for a bit, right? Because I do feel as though it's a big deal, and it's not like every day we get to talk about Stellar, right? But it's always, you ever notice that it's excitement to talk about Stellar? I know I get some criticism, like, don't hype it up too much. Hey, I'm gonna be myself. You know, I won't apologize for being myself. This whole thing of you hype things up too much, too bad. You know, I'm never gonna apologize for being myself. But I naturally am gonna be hyped up about it because there's a lot to be excited about. So a phase rollout ensures stability. The cautious phase approach in regards to the rollout of these smart contracts is crucial for maintaining network stability, and back to what Justin was talking about in regards to security. It allows for gradual testing, monitoring, adjustment to ensure everything functions smoothly, right? Like a well-oiled machine. All right, what about a little bit more of this growth? Because we talked about 160 plus projects to boom, go all live at once. And again, this is just phase 0. We're not even to the full thing of being done. And when that happens, boy, oh boy. So as developers build applications utilizing these specific smart contracts through Soroban, obviously on the Stellar platform, it will attract more users and investors, of course, into the Stellar ecosystem. As the saying goes, I mean, you drive past, you know, like a building, right? And you see all those construction workers out there, and there's not even a sign on the fence that's saying coming soon. What is everybody going to talk about? They're going to talk about, well, something's going on, you know, down the block, a mile down the road, right? I don't know what that is, but you know, increases what? Curiosity. And let's face it, this is not construction, but it's construction in regards to Web3, and that will catch the eyes of some people, whales and institutional investors, not just retail. But it's the whole thing of those investors joining this ecosystem is going to lead to increased network activity. And activity is what? Paired up with the whole key thing of, yeah, utility that's in motion. So token value appreciation. That sounds exciting. I'm a retail investor, I'm not an institutional investor. Everybody wants to pay attention to what's going on in regards to token value appreciation. Look what happened with JASMY recently, right? We want to see this with Stellar, do we not? So overall growth for the platform is a huge, huge win. All right, moving forward, why you might be here tonight, or maybe you're just new, and that's cool too. The successful integration and adoption of smart contracts, of course, will be crucial, but especially when it comes to the whole thing of Soroban. It is crucial for Stellar's future. They had to get this right. If this is their premier smart contract platform, they have to get it right. They can't just be like, oh, let's just rush this out. They didn't do that. So kudos to them for that, right? It will attract talented developers. I think you already see this. It's going to foster more of that innovation applications, but it's going to significantly, cause it to like reach its potential or full potential and create a huge impact moving forward. There are some points to consider, and that is this. All right. Three things before we wrap this up. I know there's a lot to get into. The timeline for full launch and public use of dApps obviously is yet to be determined because we're not at a full phase rollout yet. Long-term impact on Stellar's token price and adoption depends, of course, on quality and success of these specific applications. And of course, what they're doing with cross-border payments and so on. Duh, right? But you got to keep in mind, adoption depends on the quality and success of these applications that are built on top of these Soroban smart contracts. But in reality, we cannot expect that all 160 of these are going to be premier quality ones. My God, if it was, then that'd be incredible, but that's not being realistic. I will stick to my guns about the saying when it comes to you just need a handful. If Stellar was to get like an Ajax or something like that, part of their ecosystem, and that one just went gangbusters. That in itself is absolutely huge for Stellar, and I think that's realistically going to happen. 160 projects, you're trying to tell me that you can't get at least 5 to do something between now and the end of 2025? I think there's definitely going to be somebody that's going to come out from that. And last but not least, in regards to the whole thing of regulatory concerns around DeFi, especially when it comes to Stellar and Soroban and smart contracts, well, it of course poses challenges for Stellar in the future, but I think they're more than good. Why? They have already released everything during a perfect time. Do you think it's awfully convenient that they came out with that white paper for that blueprint in regards to, hey, United States of America, here's what we think you guys should do, and we're even partnering with you for this blueprint? That's there for a reason. And I'm glad they have that there, because having that in place tells me, you and everybody else, they are prepared for regulatory compliance from beginning to end. And you better believe smart contracts open up a different can of worms. I don't even want to call it worms, a can of gems. How about that for Stellar?